Okay, so when you hear the words Egyptian Book of the Dead, what comes to mind? Probably something pretty ancient, mysterious, and let's be honest, kind of morbid, right? Well, a lot of what we think we know actually comes from this one book, a landmark publication from 1898 by E.A. Wallis Budge that brought the whole thing to the English-speaking world. But what if I told you that its popular name is one of the biggest mix-ups in all of ancient history? I mean, the name itself, the Book of the Dead, it just makes you think of dusty tombs and forgotten curses. It sounds like a handbook for being dead, something all about the end. And for more than 100 years, that really ominous title has completely shaped how we look at one of the most important documents from ancient Egypt. But it's about time we set the record straight. So, what did the Egyptians themselves actually call this thing? Because this is where our whole understanding of it starts to change. Get this, the real title was The Chapters of Coming Forth by Day. Just think about that for a second. This is not about being dead, it's about emerging from death, coming out into the light. It's a total 180. And the craziest part? The proof was hiding in plain sight this whole time. You see, this wasn't some static book about an ending. No, it was a dynamic guide, a set of instructions for the soul to navigate the super complex spiritual world of the afterlife, what they called the duat, so it could successfully burst into the eternal daylight, reborn every single day just like the sun god Ra. It was a book about transformation. All right, let's move on and bust another big myth. This idea that it was a single official book, like a Bible or a Quran. The truth is actually way more personal and way more interesting. And you don't have to take my word for it. Budge himself points this out right in his preface. There was no single definitive book of the dead. It was more like a living tradition, a collection of almost 200 spells or chapters that you could basically pick and choose from. Every scroll was like a personalized mixtape for the afterlife, totally customized based on your status and, yeah, what you could afford. And this whole tradition grew and changed over thousands of years. It started way back around 3500 BC as the pyramid texts, which were only for pharaohs. 1,000 years later, they became the coffin texts, written on the coffins of nobles. Then, by the time of the New Kingdom, around 1600 BC, they were being written on papyrus scrolls for even more people, like the famous scribe Ani. It's a brilliant look at how the dream of eternal life slowly became more and more accessible. Okay, so if it wasn't just one book, what did it do? Well, to put it simply, it was a practical cheat sheet for your soul, a collection of magical spells designed to help you beat all the trials of the afterlife. And these spells got really specific. I mean, we're talking chapters for opening the mouth so you could speak and eat again. Chapters to make sure your heart, which they thought was the source of your intelligence, didn't get stolen. There were even spells for fighting off monsters, like the giant serpent demon Apep or a magical crocodile. It's literally a how-to guide for getting through eternity. And you can see that whole journey right here, in this scene from the Papyrus of Ani. The funeral procession, that's just the beginning of a really dangerous trip. The spells in that scroll were the tools that Ani would need to handle all the challenges up ahead, making sure his spirit could finish its incredible transformation. So let's zoom in on that particular scroll, the Papyrus of Ani. It's one of the most complete and just gorgeously illustrated versions that's ever been found, and it's the main one Budge based his translation on. It gives us this amazing visual story of the whole process. Putting these two pictures side by side really tells the entire story. Over on the left, you've got the somber procession, the earthly goodbye. And on the right, well, that's the destination. That is the whole point of the journey, the Seket Hetapu, or what you might call the Elysian Fields. And look closely at what's happening in this paradise. This is not some empty void. Anik is there. He's active. He's alive. He's plowing fields, harvesting crops, and worshiping the gods. See, the goal wasn't just to get past the final judgment. It was to live a perfect, eternal version of the life you already knew, but in a land of endless abundance forever. So, when we piece all of this together, we get a totally new picture. The name is wrong, the format is misunderstood, and its actual purpose is just profoundly, overwhelmingly about life. Budge himself nailed it in his dedication. He wrote about, quote, the wonderful doctrine of the resurrection of the spiritual body and of its everlasting existence. That's it. That's the core belief. It's a testament to this incredibly deep and ancient faith in a continued, real, vibrant life after death. So, the single most important thing to take away is this. The Egyptian Book of the Dead, or better yet, the Chapters of Coming Forth by Day, is one of the most powerful affirmations of life ever created.
It's not a book about death. It's a book about overcoming it.
This completely flips our usual view of an Egyptian culture that was obsessed with death. Instead, what we see is a people who were profoundly, ingeniously, and beautifully obsessed with life. So the question I want to leave you with is this. Knowing that its real purpose is about achieving eternal life, how does that change the way you see ancient Egypt?